Welcome, YouTube. Today we're going to be watching the biggest logistical flex of all time, the Berlin airlifts. I love the story of the Berlin airlifts, and in the last video of the Fat Electrician that we watched on the channel, he mentioned it, and I immediately knew I wanted to watch his video, so we're going to be getting into that. And yes, this is a new model, but let me know any of the recommendations down in the comments below, or consider joining the Discord or coming by the stream. All right, without further ado, let's get into it.
Starve an entire city, so America and the UK teamed up to deliver 4.6 billion pounds of food and supplies to that city using nothing but cargo planes. Today we're talking about the biggest economic and logistical flex of all time, America's Operation Vittles and the UK's Operation Plainfield, coming together to be known as the Berlin Airlift. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Henson's Shaving. Okay, here's the deal. Henson's is a family-owned machine shop that makes parts for the aerospace industry. There's literally parts on the Mars rover that these guys made, and one day they woke up and they're like, hey, we're just gonna make the most precise safety razor on the market. And
Okay, how do you go from making a parts for like the Mars rover to then creating razor blades? Where's the overlap in that? Were they not getting enough commission work for the Mars missions or anything like that? Like, what's the overlap here?
this is it. This is all they sell. It comes in aluminum or titanium. If
That's
you want
it?
to pay
What about the
extra,
blades?
it comes with a little stand. And
Welcome,
then
Dragon.
they also sell the razor blades, so you have a one-stop shop. Not because their razor blades are proprietary, because this
Wait, 30-degree fixed blade angle. What the hell? I've never seen one that looks
thing
like
will
this.
take any shaving razor blade on the market. You don't have to buy their proprietary cartridge. You don't have to sign up for their monthly delivery thing. No, you buy this one time and then you can put any 5-cent razor in it and shave for the rest of your life. So the product itself is fantastic, but more importantly, the company is awesome because every time a YouTuber does an ad like this, they get sent a little media packet full of talking points, what to say, what not to say, and so on. Now, I'm not supposed to disclose this, but the brief that I got for Henson's basically said there is no script, do whatever you want, we trust you. Also, in the first paragraph, they said this, quote, if for whatever reason you don't get a good shave with our product, please let us know. If we can't help you, then don't endorse us. We think we've made one of the very best razors in the world. If you disagree, we'd rather not ask you for a non-genuine endorsement. So not only are the razors great, but this is the type of company you want to support. I'll have a link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video. All right, important background info. After World War II, the Allied forces took control of Germany and it was split into pretty much 4 different chunks. The Soviets got a piece, America got a piece, the French and the British both got a piece. Here's a map of that right here. Okay, here's where it gets a little weird. Berlin was also split into 4 equal chunks. The problem with that was Berlin was 100 miles into the Soviet territory, so you have this little tiny speck on the map of British, French, and American territory completely surrounded by the USSR.
I wonder where that image is from. He used that like zoom in video in the last video that he made. I wonder where that's from. Like, there's a lot of old footage type stuff that I'm sure that he's got like saved up for him to use. Like, oh, when I mentioned Berlin, just use this little baby right here.
While that is weird, it wasn't really a problem because right after World War II, everybody was still an ally, so America, the British, and the French had no problems using the roadways and the trains to get food and supplies to their section of Berlin. Now, just so we're on the same page, Berlin, and essentially all of Germany to a slightly lesser extent, is essentially a third world country at this point in time. Berlin in particular has essentially been turned into rubble.
Talk about an open floor plan, am I right? They're actually working in there, wait a minute. Well, I guess you got to. Looks like a Cold War era educational film. Yeah, it gets that. You can kind of hear the popping from the film by looking at it. Not literally, but you can metaphorically hear it.
From Allied bombings, the entire German economy is in the toilet, and all of the German people are not getting a lot of sympathy from the global community because, well yeah, they kind of started it. Now, with the Allied forces in control of Germany, it is their job and their responsibility to help take care of the German people.
Well, I mean, technically, yes, Germany did start it when looking at World War II, though it was also the impact of how they handled the ending of World War I. Not that I'm, saying that what the Nazis did is good. Obviously, terrible. Wish they did it. Would have been great if they just didn't do it. But the way that they handled the ending of World War I also impacted the way that World War II started because of how it was handled with the Treaty of Versailles and everything like that. A bunch of just historical cause and effect and cause and effect and cause and effect and yada, yada, yada.
Now, the Western powers, America, Great Britain, and France, they're all on the same page. They all have the same game plan. They want to go in, render aid in the short term to the German people, then in the long term help prop up their economy, get them back on their own feet, and then they can leave. The USSR, on the other hand, aka the communists, absolutely hate that idea. The last thing a bunch of communists want is people being able to take care of themselves, so they step in and they're like, no, absolutely not. We're going to build a communist utopia out of this place. So, in order to stop the Western powers from helping Germany, they decide that they're going to print billions and billions of Reichsmarks, the German currency. They devalue the currency so there's so much money that it's no longer a store of value, to the point that it literally takes a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread. Because of this, the already struggling German economy completely collapses and a black market sets in, and the new currency for Germany is essentially cigarettes and food. And this goes...
It's always cigarettes. I get it. Are cigarettes as valued as people, back in the day and whatnot? What is the store of value nowadays on the black market? I almost said if there was a black market, but of course there is one. I'm sure cigarettes are still very popular for people, but they're not at least not within America, it's not as popular and whatnot. It ain't Bitcoin. People don't give a shit about Bitcoin or whatnot. So they did the one thing all history teachers tell us is bad on day one history class. Well, they did it intentionally, it seems. They caused inflation intentionally so that it would devalue their currency, it sounded like. It seems like they were like, yeah, this is a bad thing. That's what we're doing. Well, ciggies are pretty popular for smuggling. Yeah, but like, at least in America, the amount of people that are smoking is continually going down. I know within like Pakistan and India, I think the amount of people smoking are increasing and everything like that. So it could work there, but I wouldn't say that it would work within like Jesus, I had my volume on. So I don't know. I just wondering.
It goes on for like 2 years with the West trying to negotiate with the USSR on how to proceed. And during that time, the people of Berlin are quite literally starving and freezing to death, with the average Berliner eating less than 1,000 calories a day.
Oh,
eventually,
shit.
The West...
And just so you know, you need about 2,000 calories on average a day.
Steps in and they're like, fuck it, we're just going to do it without the communists because we have to help these people. So they create a new type of currency for Germany known as the Deutschmark, and it's going to be seen as a real store of value and help rebuild the German economy. The Soviets find out about this and they freak out, basically break all diplomatic communication with the Western powers, and they officially want to break up and just have East versus West, capitalism versus communism, Hungary versus Fed. This is where the Cold War really starts kicking off. And the first ideological battleground of the Cold War is going to be Berlin, because remember, it's 100 miles into Soviet territory and a big chunk of it is still controlled by the Western powers. So the Soviets decide they need to take over that part of Berlin too. They can't have a little speck of capitalism in their communist utopia. Now, luckily for the communists, it's an easy fix. They really don't have to do anything, because the minute the West Berliners see what a communist utopia really looks like, they're going to willfully and freely denounce capitalism and run over and become communists too, right? Wrong. That's never going to happen, because communism sucks. It's always sucked and it's always going to suck. So the communists are going to do what they always do. They are going to basically present West Berlin the option: join or we will attempt to kill you. Because if you don't know, that's the dirty little...
We seize the means of production. We abolish private property. The economy collapses. The economy collapses. What is always because the people at the top within like the communist eras and communist regimes and whatnot, especially during this time, they have to know, obviously, like, okay, yeah, we can't compete from an economic level against capitalism. So they do these things to try to harm the people, to make it so that they become dependent upon them. But what's their end game? What is their end game to... Okay, they beat the capitalism and whatnot. Like, how is that going to happen? I don't understand the end game here, where it's like, all right, we tortured the people, put them in economic collapse, made them starve and hate where they're living and everything like that. Then what? What happens then? What happens then? If it sucks, why is his shirt humping it? I don't know what his shirt is. He's like pulling capitalism. Not capitalism. He's pulling communism. Maybe he's humping it. Is it fuck communism? Maybe that's what it means. It means fuck communism. The end goal is to control the populace, I think. Like, but do you think you can control them with shitty means like that forever? Like, eventually people break, right? I don't know. I'm not an egotistical maniac in charge of a communism utopia, so I don't know. Maybe it's way too big brain for me.
Secret to communism. They always talk about seizing the means of production. What they never bother to tell you is that people are also part of that means of production, and they will seize you too. So that's exactly what they do. They attempt to seize West Berlin. They blockade it off from the Western powers. They cut off every road, every railway, and every waterway so that the Western powers cannot get West Berlin food or any other supplies. And then they cut off the power to that section of the city, quite literally freezing and starving them to death until they comply. So obviously this is a diplomatic and humanitarian disaster. All the military leadership runs over to President Truman and they're like, hey, what do you want us to do? Basically, we got three options.
Look at North Korea, but isn't North Korea heavily backed by China, which gets a lot of, money, goods, and stuff like that? So it kind of helps keep them up. In this case, the biggest player within communism is the Soviet Union, and they're the ones doing it. They can't be backed by another bigger power to help finance any of their stuff and kind of give them quote unquote legitimacy that quote unquote North Korea quote unquote has. But also, I'm not a political expert, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt.
Options. Option A, we can start rolling tanks in and kick off World War III right now.
Yeah, do
Option B, we can just leave the Berlin people there to die. And option C, we can try to fly in as much food and supplies as possible, but getting enough to feed an entire city is basically going to be impossible. What do you want to do? Now, obviously, I'm paraphrasing a little, but Truman basically said, we're America, we don't start world wars, we just finish them. Also, and I quote, we stay in Berlin. Period, which narrows it down to one single option. They are going to fly in enough food and enough supplies to try to feed all of West Berlin. Here's the catch with that. The American leadership has absolutely no idea what that's going to take or how to even proceed. So they go to the British government, who has just spent the last decade rationing their own people, and they have a great understanding of what it takes to keep a large population of people fed and warm. So Great Britain crunches the numbers, and they figure to get every single person in West Berlin 1,700 calories a day, it's going to be 1,500 tons of food every single day. In addition to that, since the power got cut off, they're going to need 2,500 tons of coal and fuel every single day. Okay,
Wait, can you put that in terms of elephants? Or something like that amount of weight or that amount of number of tons that doesn't register in my brain. I don't know how much that is. How many elephants, how many bananas, how many washing machines is that? I need a conversion. That's one plane of supplies landing every 3 minutes or so. Just going, man, the efficiency needed to do that. This was a high point for capitalism and a very low point for communism.
4,000 tons, just so we're all on the same page, that is 8 million pounds of supplies.
How many elephants?
Every single day, just to keep everyone alive. And the best cargo plane they have to work with at this point in time is the C-47 Skytrain, which has a maximum capacity of 3 tons, meaning that they are going to have to land 1,333 cargo planes into Berlin every single day. To put that into perspective.
Wait, but didn't for that plane that they mentioned, haven't they are they able to like reduce the amount of stuff already in the plane of like take this stuff out, strip it down as much as you can. Welcome, Xander. Strip it down as much as you can so we can fit as much extra weight inside of that as possible. Anything that isn't contributing to keeping the pilot alive, keeping the plane in the air, and making the plane go as far as it needs to go. Get it out of there so we can stuff it full of even more stuff. The planes were smaller back then. Stripping it down wouldn't do so much. Oh, well, there goes that idea that I thought they did. Maybe I was thinking of some other mission that they did at the beginning of World War II. Something like that. Yeah, that's a lot of planes, Xander.
Perspective, there's only 1,440 minutes in a day, meaning that one plane has to land every minute and 8 seconds.
Jesus.
This is impossible. Despite that, the newly formed United States Air Force says, hold my nuclear bombs and watch this shit, because on June 26, 1948, 2 days after the Soviet blockade, they launch Operation Vittles, where they are going to try to feed an entire city via cargo plane. 2 days after that, June 28th, the UK says, hey, we're going to help too, and the RAF launches Operation Planefare, and together this becomes known as the Berlin Airlift. and right out of the gate, it is a complete and utter shit show. They're trying to fly in planes from absolutely everywhere. It is disorganized chaos. There's planes crashing. There's mid-air collisions. It's a complete disaster. And on their best day, they're maybe able to get 1,000 tons of supplies, less than a fifth of what they need. Now, at this point, the conditions in Berlin are getting worse and worse by the day. The communists are essentially laughing at the stupid capitalist pigs, at which point America calls up one of its main characters, a man by the name of General William Tunner.
I mean, if you ignore the fact that people are dying in the plane crashes and people are dying from not getting the supplies, it's pretty funny, right? I mean, like, you know, planes trying to land really fast and all that, and coordination is like, oh, look at it. You can hear the Benny Hill music going in the background. I believe they also dropped a bunch of guns into Berlin just in case. Ooh. I mean, if they have the space, why not? Okay, so on average, elephants weigh somewhere between 8K and 13K pounds. So that's like a million elephants, I think. It's around a million elephants worth of supplies.
All right, this is a guy that coordinated all the logistics of getting supplies into China during World War II when they had to fly over the Himalayas. If anybody can unfuck this situation, it's gonna be him. And that's exactly what he does. So General Tunner comes in and he's like, here's the deal. We're gonna fly these planes like we're conducting an orchestra. There's 3 air channels to...
Oh yeah, I did that math wrong. 700 elephants. I did that wrong. I made the assumption of elephants being like 8 pounds. My mistake. Oh, welcome, chicken.
Berlin. The 2 on the outside are going to be planes going to Berlin, and the 1 in the middle is going to be planes leaving Berlin. For the 2 air channels going into Berlin, we're going to launch 1 plane every 3 minutes all day, every single day, and those planes are going to fly at 5 separate altitudes, staggering every single time to give them just enough time to land. The Germans on the receiving end of this are like, we're literally starving to death. We got to help out the Americans and the British with this. So they show up and they start unloading the cargo planes for them, and they get so good at unloading these planes that they can unload all 3 tons of cargo in under 7 minutes and help get the planes turned around and sent back out. And this turns into one of the most beautiful humanitarian team effort moments in human history. There's American and British pilots, aircrew members, mechanics, all just showing up in West Germany without even being called to help with this effort and to fly and repair these planes to keep them going around the clock.
And you also got to remember, what a frame to end it on. What a frame to end it on. You also got to remember that the people that they're helping, you know, are Germans. So maybe not everybody there, but, you know, Germans, they were the Nazis not too long ago, obviously. So people, I'm sure there were people that were at one point shooting at each other. Not literally. I mean, they very unlikely that there were literally 2 people that once literally shot at each other, but metaphorically were shooting at each other, are now helping each other to now restore the country as in a common goal against the Red Menace, as people would call it, the communism and whatnot. It really just looks, I love this frame, I'm sorry.
And then over in Berlin, the same thing is happening. There's Luftwaffe airplane mechanics showing up to help repair the American and British cargo planes to keep everything running. The 2 sides that were fighting against each other just a few years ago are now working together to save people. Everybody involved in this operation gets so good at what they're doing that the choke point that's holding up even more progress is that they don't have enough airfields to land the planes on. So the Germans
make some more.
Straight up build another one. The only problem with that was there was this big ass apartment building in the way, and when the pilots lowered their landing gear would only clear that apartment roof by like 20 feet, which seems like it would be kind of terrifying. So the Germans are like, hey, do you want us to rip that apartment building down? What do you guys want us to do? And the American and RAF pilots are like, bro, we just got done flying in World War II with you guys and the Japanese shooting at us. The apartment's gonna be fine, trust me. And sure enough, they start not only hitting, but exceeding the quota of 4,500 tons a day. And this infuriates the Soviets. This is the biggest economic and logistical flex of all time. It shouldn't even be possible, and yet America, the UK, and the people of West Berlin are somehow pulling it off. At this point, the Soviets decide they have to try to do something to stop this, so they start sending up all their fighter planes to try to mess with all the American and British cargo pilots by flying too close. They're basically trying to mess up air traffic, cause accidents, do anything they can to slow down this logistical miracle. However, it doesn't really work. Why? Because the American and British pilots know that it's basically a bluff, because it's essentially a giant game of fuck around and find out, because if the Soviets actually do anything, it's going to kick off World War III, and at this point in time, America is the only country on the planet that has nuclear bombs and a president that's not afraid to use them. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you that the American and RAF pilots are flying with the confidence of knowing that if one of these Soviets shoots them down, President Truman is going to bitch slap their entire country with the sun. Needless
is the biggest big dick energy moment in history is right there. You can't fuck around and find out. You wouldn't dare, or we will send your ass back to the Stone Age. Just try it. So wasn't Truman the one, was he the one in the wheelchair? Or am I getting it messed up? And if he was the one in the wheelchair, the reason he was in the wheelchair was because of the weight of his testicles. He couldn't walk with the weight of his massive balls.
Needless to say, they were unfazed by the Soviet harassment. How unfazed were they? Thank you so much for asking. Cue our next main character, Gail Halvorson.
Oh, this guy, the candy guy.
The candy bomber. He was one of the mini pilots that was flying supplies into Berlin, and somewhere along the way he decided that he was going to start dropping candy bars with little handkerchief parachutes out of the window of his plane.
And now they have their hero.
The kids could get some candy. And eventually this caught on, and all the kids were waiting where the planes would fly over, hoping that they would get a candy bar. Then the American government caught on, and they're like, oh shit, this is a great propaganda opportunity. Imagine what it would be like if every single plane was dropping candy out of it. So that's exactly what they do. They start dropping a bunch of candy out of every plane, and then they make propaganda out of it. But then it gets
Hey, that's our guy. You can't, that's not propaganda. That's what's the other word from propaganda? Advertisement. That's information. It's not propaganda. No, propaganda is for the bad guys. Come on. Shh. We don't use that word when we do it.
It's bigger because all the American candy companies start sponsoring it and donating even more candy to drop. And then it gets bigger because all the kids in America and the UK start raising money at school to buy candy to give to the kids of Germany. And they're giving out even more candy. And the Soviets have to stand there and watch as the Americans and the British are not only flying in a literal Costco worth of shit into West Berlin every single day, but they're dropping candy out of their planes like it's a fucking parade the entire time. And this is all going on while East Germany and East Berlin is eating potatoes and standing in bread lines, and it makes the Soviets look like the biggest assholes on the planet. Because not only are the people of East Germany watching the Western world essentially move heaven and earth to help out West Berlin, they're also watching the Soviets be more interested in disrupting America and the UK from helping people than they are in helping the people of East Germany.
Yeah, like capitalism, it's not perfect, but communism, in this case, what they were doing, instead of building people up, they decided, fuck it, we'll just break some people down. But capitalism decided, no, we're gonna build people up. The system's not perfect, it has flaws, but honestly, capitalism, not pure capitalism, pretty much any pure form of any economic ideology is shit. If you take it to its extremes, its pure forms, it's bad, but a form of capitalism really does seem like it's the best option. Now, it needs social programs. Socialism is not the same thing as communism. So there still needs to be social programs and safety nets and everything like that, but never go full socialism. Never go full communism. Never go full capitalism. Never go full free market and everything. It's about balance. It's all about finding balance. And welcome, Red. Welcome, Red.
In short, America and the UK are playing to win, and the Soviets are playing to not lose, and it is leading to a lower quality of life for all of East Germany. As it turns out, Sun Tzu was yet again correct when he said, the sun may rise in the east, but it sets in the west, and that's because west side is the best side.
But that's not what it means.
Really?
What is this a reference to? I don't watch these types of movies. Why do I think that this is Battleship? Why do I think that this is Battleship? Can we get a shout out for Redhead, please? All I think of is this is Battleship. Like, you know, the movie based off of the board game, I guess you would call it. My favorite Sun Tzu quote is, what is it? Oh, it's all warfare is based. And no, I'm not going to finish the rest of the quote. I like ending it right there because all warfare is based.
Not even close.
That might have been Ice Cube, actually. Anyways, so now in retaliation for all this, America and the UK and pretty much the entire Western world are going to put a bunch of embargoes on the Soviet Union and punish them financially and economically. Now, the Soviets absolutely cannot afford this, but they keep telling themselves, it's okay, winter is coming, and as soon as winter gets here, they're not going to be able to land all these planes, and this whole thing's going to fall apart. We just have to wait out long enough for winter to slow down America and the UK. So that's what they do. They just try to shoulder the financial burden and wait for winter to come and put a stop to this entire thing. Winter comes, and winter, it does slow down some of the flights, but here's the catch. America was also developing bigger, better cargo planes, and now America isn't just flying the C-47. America's flying their new cargo plane, the C-74 Globemaster, and as opposed to the previous C-47 carrying only 3 tons, the Globemaster can carry 25.
Oh, it's over. It's fucked. It's all over. It's all over.
So despite the fact that weather can sometimes delay flights, America and the UK continue to improve and increase the amount of supplies that they are delivering daily. And by Easter Sunday, 1949, they would break their own record, landing 1,383 planes in a single day, delivering 13,000 tons of supplies, which is 26 million pounds, which obviously is like 11.8 million kilograms or roughly 87 blue whales.
See, thank you. Now I understand the weight. Now I understand the weight. Okay, thank you. This is what I was looking for. I was looking for a form that I can wrap my head around. Having that many blue whales, now I understand the gravity of the weight that he's talking about.
Yeah, the United States Air Force and the RAF shipped 87 blue whales worth of crap into West Berlin in a single day, and because of this, it becomes very apparent to the Soviet Union that America can and will keep this shit up forever if they have to, and they are finally forced to give up the blockade because they cannot shoulder the financial burden anymore, and that would come down on May 12th, 1949. And with the roads and railways to West Berlin finally open once again, the Berlin Airlift would come to an end after 15 months, 277,000 flights spanning 92,000 miles and delivering 2.3 million tons of aid, which is roughly 4.6 billion pounds or 15,333.333333333 blue whales. This is the greatest
that's too many whales. I can't wrap my head around it.
Humanitarian feat ever accomplished, and the Western world did it with communism doing everything it could to slow it down. So in conclusion, fuck communism.
That's what
it's. The best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang, out.
Go buy his merch. Go buy his merch. See, I told you it was fuck communism is what that was saying. I told you. Also, yes, this is one of my other models. Well, see, this... Just you gotta follow with capitalism. Gotta go with capitalism, not pure capitalism. But this video shows it. This proves without a shadow of a doubt that capitalism is better than communism. Oh, I think someone commented this on the last video, but they what is it? That communism is the best form of economic governance or whatever it's called, the economic system. It's the best one on paper. But as soon as humans get involved, it is literally the worst because humans are going to human. People are going to people. It doesn't work in reality. On paper, it sounds amazing. It's the best one on paper. You can't do it, though. You just can't do it. But that's just my opinion. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Well, let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. Consider subscribing, liking the video, or joining the Discord or the stream. But until next time, I'll see ya on the next video. I'm terrible at outros. See ya.